What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods coming at y'all with another week 6 preview, man. And we are headed to Dallas, man. The Cotton Bowl, the Red River Shootout, the Red River Rivalry, whatever you want to call it, man. We got a Red River Showdown in Dallas this weekend. Another ranked matchup in this long storied history of this game. And both teams are right in contention for the Big 12. And this could be the game that puts someone over the top to let them take control of this conference. And this is going to be one of the last times we see this matchup, over these next few years as a Big 12 matchup. It'll be an SEC matchup in the coming years. And really and truly, both of these teams are playing so well that we could see a rematch just like we saw in 2018, possibly in Arlington, Texas later this year. But we got the number 6 Oklahoma Sooners taking on the number 21 Texas Longhorns. Oklahoma, as we're recording, is a 3.5 point favorite. This game kicks off 11 a.m. Central Time live on ABC. But man, the storylines for this game, we could go on and on and on. But we'll start with the Sooners here coming into this game at 5-0, looking to prove that they are, worthy to the country, man. They've dropped 4 spots since the AP poll dropped week 1. But the thing the Sooners have done week after week is just find a way to win football games. And it's really, it's so weird to say this, but it's really relied on the defense at times as they've continued their improvement under Alex Grinch. And they've won these games based on their defense making a key stop here or there. And then also, is there a bigger stage for Spencer Rattler, to put his name, I guess, back into that Heisman talk, have his Heisman moment? There's not a bigger stage to do that. We've seen quarterback after quarterback put their name into the hat in this rivalry game. And a big performance this weekend could do just that for Rattler, especially after he could have his redemption moment after being benched in this game last year before coming back in and leading the second half comeback for the Sooners. On the other side, Steve Sarkisian with his debut in this big rivalry game. The Longhorns have come a long way since their loss to Arkansas, which, let's just be honest, looks like a very good loss right now. But we'll get to that a little bit later. But a 4-1 record. Casey Thompson, the new starting quarterback, has become a star for the Longhorns, and Sarkisian has begun to work his magic on this offense. And this could be the type of win that launches and changes Texas' season as they get into Big 12 play. Now, the Sooners are looking for their 4th straight win over the Longhorns going back to the 2018 Big 12 championship game, and have won 9 of the last 12 matchups with the Longhorns. But 7 of the these last 8 matchups have been one-score games. As we know with rivalry games, throw the records out the window, throw the history out the window. This is going to be a very close game between two very, very talented teams, and 3.5 point spread feels like such a large amount, because I mean this game could come down to 1 point, one play, one moment, like it does year in and year out. But let's get to the keys to victory for each of these teams. The Sooners, it's easy. And it's not put it all on Spencer Rattler like some people think. It's find a way to establish their rushing attack, because that's how they're going to win this game. They have 2 great, very talented running backs, but their running game has been inconsistent at times. And this rushing game is going to have to aid Spencer Rattler and control the pace of the game, because you already know we haven't got to the keys for Texas, but the name Bijan Robinson is on that other sideline, and he's going to be the focal point of anything the Longhorns tried to do. And you cannot let them, to 1, control the pace of the game, 2, control the time of possession, and 3, just wear down your defense. You're going to have to match your own rushing attack and be able to sustain some drives down the field and keep your defense fresh late into the game. And we've seen that you can't just throw it on Rattler and make him throw it around the yard 50, 60 times a game. You're going to have to run the ball consistently this weekend. The Sooners are averaging over 430 yards per game. They're rushing for about 150 and averaging about 4.7 yards per rush for the season thus far. But the good thing is the Longhorns are giving up about 170 yards per game on the ground. And Zachary Evans made a big impact on the ground last week. And Arkansas really leaned on their run game to beat Texas and Fayetteville just a few weeks back. So you should be able to run the ball if you're Oklahoma this weekend. They use a two running back system, and both of these guys have proven their worth on the biggest stage, but they're going to have to step their game up to the next level this weekend if they want to beat the Longhorns down in the Cotton Bowl this weekend. Kennedy Brooks, man, 318 rushing yards this year, 5.9 average, and 4 rushing touchdowns, while Eric Gray's got 245 on the ground and averaging about 5 yards per carry. But the thing about Gray is he's also a dangerous receiving threat out the backfield, which could offer an additional level of danger and concern for this Longhorns defense because they can get him out into space. And Eric Gray's the type of guy that if he makes one or two guys miss, he's taking it to the house, and he has that type of explosive ability. I really, I thought Eric Gray was going to be a huge factor for the Sooners offense. I want to start seeing him build out his role more in this offense. He's got 8 catches for 85 yards and a receiving touchdown. I'm expecting the Sooners to try and establish the run game early because, like I said, you cannot lose the time of possession battle, and you can't allow Texas to establish their will on the other side of the football and control the pace of the game because you already know Bijan Robinson is coming up when you're not on the field. Now, Rattler has played well this season, but the Sooners, for me, have failed to have that it factor yet. And it just feels like, and I know Josh Pate for 247 said this as well. It just feels like it's bound to happen at any time. It feels like a dam ready to break, and it just hasn't broke week after week. You haven't really seen that breakout game. And I think Rattler has a lot to prove after being benched last year. He's putting up solid numbers, but no one's has been super impressed. And I'll get into what I think's missing. But first, man, he's completing 76% of his passes, which is what I was talking about. He's playing at an elite level, 1,200 yards, 10 passing touchdowns, 4 picks, 2 rushing touchdowns. He's averaging about 8 yards of completion. The it factor that it seems like they're missing, and no one's really talked about this, is the deep ball has been really missing in Rattler's game this year. The Sooners have not been able to push the ball up the field like they have in previous seasons, and it's really limiting this Oklahoma's offense. This Oklahoma offense's rhythm, their explosiveness, and for me, it's an area that I did not expect the Sooners to struggle in. In passes 20 or more yards down the field, Rattler's only completing 25% of his passes for 102 yards and 2 picks. That's a 31.4 passing grade by Pro Football Focus. You have to do better if you're Rattler. You have to put pressure on the back end of this Texas secondary. The underneath game has been the key for the Sooners, and it's the formula has been simple for Lincoln Riley this year: is to get the ball in your playmakers' hands and allow them to make plays in open space, which they've excelled at all season long. He's completed 85% of his passes for 8 touchdowns, over 650 yards, and an 83 plus grade on his passes in terms of passing grade. That's from behind the line of scrimmage to 9 yards down the field. So for me, the running game is going to be important because over 50% of Rattler's passes have come off play action concepts this season, and he's graded up over a 90 in terms of passing grade off of play action. He's struggling pushing the ball down the field. So if they can establish a consistent run game, they'll load the box, and Rattler should have some time to get deep because Marvin Mims, Hazelwood, Michael Woods, all these guys can be deep threats. They just haven't got to show it yet. And that, for me, has been the it factor that's been missing from this Oklahoma offense. So I'm expecting a heavy dose of Kennedy Brooks and Eric Gray this weekend on the ground. Now, for the Longhorns, I hate repeating myself and picking the same key, but every key for the Longhorns starts with Bijan Robinson. I don't care what anyone says, what YouTuber you watch, what analyst you watch, anything. The Texas game plan is Bijan Robinson over and over and over and over again until Oklahoma makes you stop. Oklahoma forces you to pass the ball. He's going to be the toughest test that this Oklahoma defense has seen all season. And on the flip side, this Oklahoma front seven is going to probably be the best front seven that Texas has seen. They're only allowing about 80 yards per game in rushing yards. But this Longhorns offense for Steve Sarkisian relies on the running back to really set up everything else and make it click at full speed. You look at what Najee Harris brought to that Alabama offense last year. That's what Bijan Robinson is to this Texas Steve Sarkisian offense. Now, The offense has been playing lights out since the Arkansas game. They've scored 30 or more points each week, and they have 2 games over 58 points, including a 70-point explosion over Texas Tech. Now, it all starts with the rushing attack, averaging over 268 yards per game. And Bijan Robinson already has over 650 yards rushing, 7 rushing touchdowns, over six yards per carry. And Rashawn Johnson and Keelan Robinson have also been a great backup duo for them. 228 yards and over 7 yards per carry for Johnson, 3 rushing touchdowns. And for Keelan Robinson, over 7.6 yards per carry and 2 rushing touchdowns. This rushing attack is so explosive. And I was checking out some of the stats, watching some film. Texas dominates the right side of the offensive line of scrimmage. They have tons of success off the right side behind Junior Ngalu and Andre Carrick, the guard and tackle on that side. They have 96 carries for 700 yards, 13 rushing touchdowns, and over 7 yards per carry when rushing off the right side of the offensive line. And it's headlined by off the right edge. They have 4 touchdowns and over 200 yards rushing on only 30 carries off the edge on the right side. That's going to be the key. That's where they run up over, probably over 50% of their runs come off that right side. Can Oklahoma find a way to get them out of their comfort zone on that mark? Now, Casey Thompson is going to have a great game this weekend. He kind of had a tough performance last weekend against TCU. I'm not taking a lot of stock into that because TCU has an elite secondary. Let's just be completely honest there, but he's going to have to make some critical throws this weekend, and establishing the rushing attack with Robinson and those other backs are going to be the key to keep the pressure off of Thompson throughout this game. He's completing over 70% of his passes for 707 yards, 9 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns, and only 3 picks since he's become the starting quarterback. And where he thrives is the intermediate passing concepts that is going to be extremely important this weekend because the Sooner secondary will allow you to throw for some yards this weekend. And the question will be, can Thompson take advantage of that? He's completed 70% of his passes over the middle, over 300 yards, 13.9 yards per completion, 5 touchdowns, has an 88.7 passing grade between passes 10 to 19 yards down the field. That's where he thrives. And if he can beat them over the middle in those intermediate routes, Texas is going to find a way to probably win this game. Now, the key for just Thompson overall, be calm and composed in such an electric environment that he's going to see this weekend. He's got to also be efficient and play his game. You don't have to try to match everything Rattler does. Just be yourself, play within the Steve Sarkisian offense, and this could be his introduction to the country as one of the future guys to watch out for in the college football. Now, the matchup to watch for me was so hard because I've thought about doing the Texas secondary versus the wide receivers for Oklahoma. I thought doing the same thing on the flip side, Texas wide receivers versus Oklahoma's secondary, but because the run game for Texas is so important and keeping a young quarterback like Thompson calm, cool, and collected in the pocket, I'm going to have to go the Texas offensive line against the Oklahoma defensive line because, like I said, it's important for the Longhorns rushing attack, but keeping Thompson comfortable in the pocket and letting him establish his rhythm might be more important. Now, the Texas O line is going to be probably, in my opinion, the most important positional unit in this game. And they've played so well this season. Thompson's only been sacked 3 times. Hudson Card was sacked 6, but Thompson's mobility out in the pocket and his pocket presence have really helped this offensive line establish themselves. Derek Kerstetter is one of the top pass blockers in the country, has a great pass blocking grade this season, and he's not allowed a sack or quarterback hit this season from his tackle spot. But Ngalu and Carrick, the 2 guys I mentioned earlier, have been some of the best run blocking offensive linemen on this team. The one spot I'm worried about is Jake Majors at center. He has been the weak spot in pass blocking, and he has easily the lowest pass blocking grade on this team. And he's lost a lot of matchups on the inside, and that's not good for this matchup because Oklahoma's D tackles are one of their strengths. He's going to have to step up this weekend and make some plays for this Texas O line. Thompson, though, has been a different quarterback under pressure. This is why I picked this one. Under pressure, he's completing less than 52% of his passes, 2 interceptions, and is only averaging 6 yards of completion and has a 50.0 passing grade. Not great, but the thing about the Longhorns O line is they played so well, he's only gotten pressure on 28% of his dropbacks this year. And so they're going to have to have that type of production and keep Thompson clean and calm in the pocket this weekend. Now, the Sooners defense loaded on the defensive line, and this is by far the strength of this defense. The Sooners are only allowing 80 rushing yards per game. They have 18 sacks and 80 pressures over the first 6 games. Elite production from that defensive line, and it all starts with Nick Benito at the edge spot. 3 sacks, 14 pressures, and is already one of the highest graded pass rushers in the country. And Isaiah Thomas and Reggie Grimes have also been formidable edge presence for the Sooners. 6 combined sacks, 14 pressures for them. But the key here, I already told you up the middle is where Oklahoma can get Texas in terms of pass rushing. Perrion Winfrey and Jalen Redmond are going to be X factors in this matchup. They've been stout in run defense from the inside of the defensive line. They've combined for 5 sacks and 17 pressures. If you can get pressure up the middle on a young quarterback, that is going to play right into Oklahoma's hands because if he tries, that's one, not going to allow him to step into his throws. 2, he can't escape up the front of the pocket. And if he tries to roll, Benito and those edge guys have the speed to make some plays if he tries to roll out, up and out of the pocket. So for me, Winfrey and Redmond getting pressure up the middle is key for Oklahoma in this matchup. Now, this was, we've covered some really good games this week. This is probably one of the hardest games that I've had to pick because, like, part of me saying go with the Longhorns. They've been so good these past few weeks, and the offense has been great, and I think they can make enough stops. But, man, like I said, I try to be as unbiased as possible. It's just right now I feel like if there's a game where this Oklahoma offense is going to be explosive, it's this one. And I was looking at it. I trust the Oklahoma front seven to make a play to win this game more than I trust the Texas defense to. I think it's going to come down to a field goal, even though Dicker for Texas is by far the best kicker. I think Oklahoma just makes one more play than Texas to win this game. They get their 4th straight win over the Longhorns, 34-31 this weekend in Dallas. So I got a 3-point win for Oklahoma, 34-31. It's such a tough game to predict. If I come on here on Sunday with my instant reaction and Texas wins, I won't be surprised. It's just I have a little bit more faith in Oklahoma right now. I think that front seven's legit, and it's just about time, man. Spencer Rather, go make a play this weekend. But for me, I got the Sooners by 3. But guys, subscribe now if you're new. Hit that like button. And also, man, comment your score predictions and takeaways from the game below. What are you going to be looking for? What are you most excited for? You go into the game. Let me know in the comments, man. Love interacting with y'all. And I appreciate y'all's support, man. We got more previews dropping tomorrow. But for right now, man, on the Blue Bloods, we are out.